After 4 iconic updates back to back, 1.9, 2.0, 2.1, and 2.2, along with nearly 10 years of development, the game doesn't look like it could change much to the extent as it had over the years. There's likely not going to be any new modes or game modes, and you could essentially do whatever you want in the editor at this point. To many people, the game probably looks finished as far as the core dynamics of it can go, and that's where my arrogant ass comes into play. What's good? It is RM, and here are 10 things I got to see in 2.3. This video is going to go from kind of small, kind of big things that would be great to add to absolute game changers, which I think would vastly improve how Geometry Dash is right now. Now, this is probably my most controversial opinion yet, but you know how we went from 2 colors to choose your icon set with, then 2 colors with glow, and finally now 2 colors with custom glow? I'm telling you, I really think the game would be a lot more interesting and diversified if people can choose individual colors for their icon set. Now, believe it or not, this is actually something I've wanted for years. If you're someone who beats hard levels, obviously it's hard for you to find a real-life friend for you to, let's say, help beat Duelo Mastero with. You can already see using recent technology with Globed and Deathlink that it is possible to create something like this, and I believe it would be a very useful feature. Now in this video, we're reaching the
definitely adding 2.3
category with things which I would personally believe would improve the game at least a bit. During 2.0, when you were able to use triggers to make your level dynamic, people used 2-player mode as a way to create games on a level-making platform, as 2 players means 2 separate buttons to work with. Hit after hit, we had levels like Playroom by Abstract and Ultra Game 3 by Serpunge, using these mechanics to inspire other levels, which led to the creation of Master Game, Going for Gears, Dim, then with a total of 6 buttons being added, Gateway, GD Studio, G-Phone Dash. These are actual projects people are making and not levels anymore. Therefore, extra buttons in the game will allow for more complex and even crazier levels to exist in the game. It should probably be hidden in some obscure setting where each new button spawns a new cube so you can arrange triggers to make cooler stuff. I don't know. Also, while on the topic of this, level makers should be allowed to rearrange buttons to their liking using the options trigger, to make stuff more accessible and easier to however the level maker chooses by default. Alright, this is another controversial one. However, I believe that there should be a basic arrangement or mode of the editor by default, just removing a few complicated and obscure triggers like item edit, item compare, retarget, advanced that's a whole paragraph! And maybe put a button in the pause menu or the pause menu settings tab somewhere easy to find to switch to the more advanced mode. The reason why I think this should be in place is because I believe that for the average 9-year-old trying to make a decent level, I doubt the Bible-sized editor guide would help much. Basically, a portal which makes you go from classic mode to platformer mode, and platformer mode back to classic mode. Now, there aren't really any more colors to make portals except black, but that's already widely used with the pulse trigger to create a form of mysteriosity with levels. So, I believe we should make them an easily recognizable gradient, or even rainbow. I was actually surprised that this wasn't included in 2.2, because I think it would be insane to, just go through a platformer level, maybe get a checkpoint or two, and then BAM! A boss fight in classic mode. Now, we are reaching the part of the video where we have features that should have already been pre-installed into 2.2, just because of how good I, at least in my opinion, think they are. Now, RobTop delayed most of this to 2.21, but when I say more lore, I don't mean just a vague storyline of, oh, a fat-ass blob is going to destroy Geometry Dash. I better see a multi-layered epic between the forces of good and evil in this world. Now, if you were a kid watching Geometry Dash content back then, you might recognize the video called The Final Battle of Geometry Dash, where it's a 2.2 fan-made video and you're just wandering around in Geometry Dash until suddenly the Keymaster wants you to join wants you to join you with him to paradise for some reason. The other Vault Keepers discuss about this until you ascend to this so-called place. Here you meet a white demon named the Light, where he explains what is essentially a heaven and hell between the Geometry Dash world. He tells you to go to the opposite of the paradise, the crypt, and kill the darkness. Once you go to the crypt, you meet a black demon named Spiritual Vault, telling you that there's a link between this world and the crypt, and that you need to complete a level in order to go there, which is essentially a buff version of the challenge. Once you complete this level, you meet an even blacker demon named Unknown Vault, where he says you can't return to your own world, and you essentially have to 1v1 this motherfucker because you made him mad. Just when you think you're finished, he continues some fucking how. After you defeat him again, for the second time, this time with a swing copter, he is still unfinished. Anyway, after all of this bullshit, he turns Caucasian and the video ends with a lock. So fucking peak. There are also sequels to this, but I'll share them in the description because this segment is long enough already. As you can see here, this is the type of lore that I'm expecting. Back-to-back dialogue between different places of the game, along with boss fights against the antagonists of the story. RobTop did incredibly well with the mission of unlocking the Demon Guardian. It's perfectly balanced between secrecy and an obvious tutorial, with the difficulty of the Chaos Gauntlet being locked to harder, which is a great move for intermediate-ish players. The only downside to this is having to type the challenge, which no one would randomly think of doing in their own. Regardless, I still remember vividly to this day when I was 8 and completed the Chaos Gauntlet for the very first time. It genuinely felt like something I discovered in the game. I really hope he passes on this form of exploration in new updates. RobTop seems to really like the idea of Geode, and it would be really nice if he hired their staff and have it in the game officially as a Geode button, since many people already know what that is. And RobTop did say he was willing to expand RobTop games after 2.2, so this might not even be out of the ballpark for a suggestion. Now this is a must. You know how songs and sound effects are internally stored and such? Well, why not do the same for variables? Basically, when you play Master Game and you die somewhere, so you have to insert a code in the beginning of the level in order to save your progress? Why not just skip that part entirely by having that data stored in your local files or in your account data, so you can just hop on in and instantly continue playing? At this point in the game, we can almost do whatever we want in the editor, so why not break that limit and be able to do whatever we want? How about we have a trigger which changes the icon size, a trigger which makes us move the ground up and down as if it was an object. Allow yourself to create your own trigger from a variation of other triggers, and your own trigger be a trigger in the game. I'm kinda glad this game isn't running dry for my idea, since there is a lot to heavily improve it and make Jump to Dash, I don't know, a game that's not so heavily reliant on its community and be something great itself. Or maybe I'm just meat writing and thinking too much about a Square game. This isn't some sort of reverse psychology trick for a conclusion. I really don't know how to end this video. So goodbye!